and welcome to another fun, fact-filled episode of This Is Metal with Joe Lawson. Joe, tonight we're going to be talking all about Marty Friedman. So I've seen that you've been posting some stuff on the This Is Metal Facebook page about the fact that he recently did a show with Megadeth. You want to kick off a show talking about that?
Yeah, sure. Marty Friedman left Megadeth in 2000, I believe.
Yes.
It was shortly after the Risk album. Pretty much in his own words, he felt like he would rather be playing pop music rather than the pop metal type of stuff that Megadeth was putting out.
Yeah.
And he felt that Megadeth should have went in a heavier direction, not a lighter direction. So he was unhappy with the direction of the band, and that's what led to the split. He did play on Rust in Peace, Countdown to Extinction, Euthanasia, Cryptic Writings, and Riffs. So he's a big part of Megadeth, obviously. So recently he got together, he reunited with Megadeth just for a couple of songs.
Yeah.
He played Countdown to Extinction, Tornado of Souls, and Symphony of Destruction at Nippon Budokan in Tokyo, February 27th. So, and that's also, he's on tour right now.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know this. They just know Marty from Megadeth, but of course he was with
Jason Becker
in Cacophony, and did some amazing stuff with him. And he has 14 solo albums out. I did not know he had such an extensive solo career. Yeah.
And you know what's interesting about that? I mean, touching a little on Captaphony with Jason Becker, that was where on the Shrapnel label, you know, Mike Varney, where he was putting out together all these bands and putting out these albums that were really kind of guitar oriented, and that's how that band kind of got formed. You know, they started really making some serious noise, and then I was reading that. Actually, let's go back in time, and what I was reading, like it says, after attending a Kiss concert at the age of 14, Marty Friedman decided he wanted to learn how to play the guitar. Marty, it said, is mostly self-taught. And now, here's some interesting stuff I found out. It said, right away, Marty formed a band that played and wrote original songs rather than take the normal route of playing covers. Marty felt playing covers was lazy and did not challenge him enough. He felt that, you know, if you go and just play other people's music, playing covers, he said you could get away with not having to play technically precise. And he says, you know, you could get away with just telling people, well, that's the way the song was written. Whereas he says if you're doing your own original music, you get a chance to be more creative, and you have to kind of think about what you're doing a little more.
Well, he says that you have to know Marty a little bit. He says that he's saying that in a joking way. Okay. Marty's very precise.
Yeah.
He's like crazy accurate.
Yeah.
And he's a creative soul. That's who he is. You know, that's just.
Who he is.
That's who he is. There's musicians out there that they're unbelievably talented. They can play anything. Any piece of music you put in front of them, they can play it.
Oh, sure.
But you ask them to write a song, and they can't do it to save their life.
Yeah.
They just don't have that talent. It's a different talent. And Marty's the rare case where he has both.
Yeah.
And he has both an aces. He can shred. He can play with the best of them.
He can do whatever they need him to do.
And he's super creative. He can write, and he writes amazing riffs and amazing stuff. I picked up a couple of songs that he did solo-wise, and I think I've posted them in our group page, This Is Metal group page on Facebook, a couple of times before, and they were just unbelievable, just amazing, outstanding. He's kind of went in this like neoclassical, thrash metal, progressive version with, of course he lives in Japan and has for a long time now, and so he's fused together elements of Asian music and into his repertoire and how he plays, and I think it's amazing. I love it. He's super creative. I don't think there's anybody doing anything remotely close to what he's doing, you know? Yeah, I mean,
he's going to always have that tag of being ex-Megadeth guitar player, but that's not a tag that he puts on himself. While I know he's very proud of his Megadeth, history, it's not like that's all that he's living on. Like you said, he's made a whole career for himself. For the last 30 years. Once he decided he was going to move to Japan, he immersed himself in the language. He actually is fluent in Japan now. Japanese language, he speaks it fluently, just as he does the English language. He's become a huge pop star over there in Japan. I dare say much more of a pop star than he ever was in Megadeth. It's almost like he's playing for two different audiences, but yet I do know a lot of people like you and me, Joe, that were fans of his from when he was in Megadeth and before. Still love to follow his solo career and love what he's doing today. And he's one of those guys, like you said, he's very creative, and he's not. While he could, have a career where he just, is living off of his Megadeth, legacy and history. He found a way to be successful and doing his own thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And he had his own heavy metal TV program in Japan called Rock Fujiyama, with Shelley and Ken Ayugai, Kenny Guy, and a couple other people in Japan from April 2006 until March 2007. So it sounds like he's made a real name for himself there, and I think Japan's really embraced him. They absolutely love him.
I mean, from what
he's done really well there. He's been on a ton of TV shows and things over there the entire time he's been there. So they treat him like royalty there.
I mean, probably the only other band that probably gets that kind of love over there in Japan, as far as American musicians, is Mr. Big was huge in Japan, and they still are. In fact, anytime they do any kind of touring, they can do like 4 or 5 shows in Japan, and they just they make bank, for the year. But Marty Friedman, from what I understand, I mean, he kind of gets, he's so well known in Japan, just walking the streets that I don't know if he has to have security or anything like that, but he gets mobbed by fans, in a good way, people wanting to come up and get his autograph and, oh, Marty. But I think he gets that much more in Japan, amazingly, than he ever did in the United States. Of course, he's walking the streets here, but I don't know that everybody in the United States of America knows who Marty Friedman, but he's much more, like you said, even of a TV star. People are much more aware of who he is in Japan. It's just kind of amazing that he's been able to have that kind of career when he's basically an American musician living in Japan for the last 30 years.
It's really something. Now he's had his own line of Jackson guitars, his own signature carbon amps, and all of the stuff that comes with being a big name professional guitar player, that you would expect and that you hear other guitar players have. He's got all of that, endorsements, and all of that type of stuff. I thought it was interesting. I did not know that he was of Jewish descent.
Yeah, that's what it said. Yeah,
I didn't realize. I would have never guessed that. I don't know why. I just He doesn't
speak of it.
As being somebody who's Jewish, but that was pretty cool. And I have a personal story with Marty Friedman.
Let's hear that one.
When I was out west in Arizona playing with the band Blind Rage that I was in, our guitar player Tony went to GIT in Los Angeles many years ago, the 80s, early 90s, somewhere in that time frame. And he was there with Marty Friedman. Mm-hmm. And he knew Marty. Wow. And we were playing a show in Hollywood Alley. And we were playing with a band called War Dog. Okay. And War Dog was an old band of Marty Friedman's.
Oh, okay.
And he came walking through the door. Wow. And I was like, holy shit, that's pretty cool. There's Marty Friedman.
Wow.
And he sat down at the bar next to Tony, and he's like, Tony! And he gave him a big hug, and I was like, wow. Shit, he remembers Tony. My guitar player. So I thought that was pretty neat, pretty cool that he remembered him all those years later,
Did you get a chance to talk to him at all, or just kind of, wave and say hi?
Not a whole lot, I let him kind of hang out and spend time, talking to Tony, because they, those two
Sure.
had a friendship together from years ago, and they did their thing. I don't think he stayed long. He listened to a couple of songs. I think he talked to the guys in the band and had a beer or whatever and left. It wasn't a real big, long, drawn out.
Yeah.
The funny thing was like he came in, and I think some of the people knew who he was.
Yeah.
But literally, probably half the people in the bar had no idea who he was, and I'm like, really?
That's what
You don't know who this is.
that's what I'm talking about. Like, and the way the fans react to him, since he's moved to Japan, over there in Japan. I mean, it's like if you were to see Paul McCartney, on the street, the way he's mobbed, it's just amazing that the Japanese people react very differently to their pop idols. And he's much more of a pop idol over there in Japan. But talking a little bit about some of his earlier work, like pre-Megadeth, like the band Cacophony with Jason Becker. What's interesting about that is, that's one of those bands, kind of like Steeler. They kind of had a cult following. Anytime you bring up like that's always like from 80s metal band, or the albums that people are constantly bringing up. They did not when the band was around. They did not get like they didn't make it like they should have. It's one of those bands that they came very close. But it's interesting because as that band was coming to an end, that's kind of when Marty released his very first solo album, which is Dragon's Kiss. That's probably another one of those albums that he's really remembered for. And the thing with that is, so as that band is coming to an end, he's releasing his first solo, and that's I think the album that kind of Dave Mustaine kind of discovered Marty on, from what I understand. And then he shortly after gets the offer to join Megadeth, and at the time I think Jason Becker was only like 19 years old or something like that, 20 years old maybe at the most. And he gets an offer to join David Lee Roth's band, plays on his David Lee Roth's third solo album. While everything the future's looking bright for both these guys. Unfortunately, after he records the David Lee Roth album, that's when Jason Becker starts having issues with his hands, and then they come to find out that's when they discovered that he was suffering from Lou Gehrig's disease from a very early age, and Jason and Marty remain friends all these years, and they're constantly in touch with one another. And Jason Becker himself continues to make new music, but that's an interesting thing. So these two guys were in this band together, and if it had not been for Jason's health, he might have had the same career path as Marty Friedman, but he's still making music.
Let's back up just for a minute.
Yeah.
Let me jump in here. For people who don't know what we're talking about, the Jason Becker, Marty Friedman
band. Yeah.
Explosion, I'll just call it.
Yeah.
It was amazing. 1987, they released an album called Speed Metal Symphony on Shrapnel Records.
There you go.
1988, they put out Go Off on Shrapnel Records.
Yeah.
You can go online, YouTube, whatever, check it out. If you're a guitar freak, you'll love it. It was unbelievable. I mean, amazingly cool stuff.
Sure.
So and all of the solo stuff like that you mentioned that he did, Dragon's Kiss was awesome too, and Scenes, Introduction, True Obsessions, Music for Speeding, Loudspeaker, Live in Europe, Future Addict, Tokyo Jukebox, Bad DNA, Tokyo Jukebox 2, Metal Clone X, Volume 2, Louder Than Your Mother, Inferno, that's the one that I heard recently, Inferno, the solo album, Wall of Sound, One Bad Motherfucker Live, and Tokyo Jukebox 3. I mean, that's what a list of solo albums.
Oh, sure.
Wow.
And now, I don't have any of those, but I've heard all of them. And the thing, the one I do kind of want to get is the Tokyo Jukebox set, because what that is obviously we've been talking about the fact he's lived in Japan for the last 30 years, and he's learned the culture and the language and everything, and really immersed himself in the culture over there. And and his thought on those albums was, since I've been living here in Japan, I would like to kind of make like obviously a guitar-oriented album, but like kind of create like Japanese kind of rock pop music, and that's what those albums are.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and
it'd be interesting to hear his spin on that.
Yeah, and from what I understand, the original tunes, from what I understand, and it is kind of a different a little bit of it's still got elements of metal and stuff. So I think if you're at all a Marty Friedman fan, you'll dig that. But it's fun to check stuff like that out, you know.
For sure. Yeah, I just returned home today from Orlando, Florida.
Oh wow!
And I see yesterday Marty was in Florida playing Jacksonville, Florida at the Florida Theater. Yeah. So he's got some shows coming up. He's going to be making his way towards you, my friend.
Yeah.
In Los Angeles on let's see, where is it? At the Whiskey. March 18th, he's going to be at the Whiskey.
I'll have to see if I get tickets for that. But you know, Joe, let's talk a little bit about the current tour because that's pretty exciting. I mean, it's probably the highest profile tour that Marty's been on, you know, at least in the U.S. for a number of years. It's a package tour, and it's a pretty cool package because I think the headlining band is Queensryche, and then I think the co-headlining band is Marty Friedman, and the band that was chosen to open up is the band Trauma. Now that name may sound familiar. I actually have had an opportunity to interview the drummer of Trauma twice recently because they just put out Trauma is the band Cliff Burton was in pre-Metallica, and that's where you probably heard that name from. And they've gone through like member changes, but they've they're still going. In fact, like I said, they just put out a new album towards the tail end of 2022, and the drummer was telling me this is like the highest profile gig tour they've been a part of in years. So that's kind of fun for the fans to find out. Okay, obviously, this is the band Cliff Burton was part of before Metallica. So I think it's a great package, as far as this tour that he's on.
Yeah, that would be an excellent show to see, for sure. And the following night, he's going to be in Anaheim. So if you can't make the March 18th date, you get another shot at going to check him out.
Anaheim's a little closer.
The House of Blues in Anaheim.
Yeah, that's right next to Disneyland, so that'll be cool.
Yeah. And he's going to be at the Concord Music Hall by me in Chicago, March 31st.
Wow.
So you can go to martyfriedman.com. That's MartyFriedman.com.
Okay.
And he has his tour dates listed on there. He has his albums on there, discography, bunch of stuff, little tidbits, video clips you can check out and stuff. So.
And I'm sure you can go on YouTube and check out all his music and videos, as Joe was saying. I know all the major musicians got their own YouTube page. You go on Facebook, and that's another great way to find out what these musicians are up to. So, Joe, what have you been up to lately? Any just living life and keeping busy, huh?
Yeah. Just got back from Florida. Was down there for a Tai Chi, so I was down there training for 3 days, and just got in today, actually, late this afternoon, around 4 o'clock.
Yeah, so, what was the weather like there? I asked because, in California...
It was beautiful. It was like 83 degrees, and I seen across the street from the hotel I was at, there's a place called Rock and Brews.
Oh.
And somebody had told me that Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley are part owners of that.
Yeah, actually, yeah.
So well, shit, I got to go check that place out. It was pretty cool. I posted some pictures and stuff, and the food was actually delicious.
Yeah,
really
it's kind of think of it as not quite like a hard rock, but they have like different kind of they have music memorabilia, kind of like a hard rock. And what's amazing is you'd think it'd be filled with nothing but like Kiss stuff, but it's really not. But in fact, I recently got
there's like AC/DC, Jimi Hendrix, Kiss, Guns N' Roses. They had like portraits and paintings, like really nice stuff.
They had like Alice Cooper pizza or something.
It was pretty cool.
Yeah. They had like Alice Cooper pizza or something like that. Some of the dishes are named after some celebrities, and it's a fun place to go. And I went to one recently, and what's funny is they sell Gene Simmons Moneybag Soda, and it's actually pretty good. So he's got a place to sell that besides 7-Eleven. So I've been wanting to do a show. Obviously, Joe, we talked about doing a show on Marty Friedman for quite a while, and I think we've proven the point that he's deserving of a show because he's such an iconic player. I mean, and it's interesting because again, when you look at not just the fact that he was a Megadeth, but he continues to have a successful solo career. And what's interesting is, I think when most people, and I think we're guilty of this ourselves, think of Megadeth, I know I typically think of Marty Friedman as a guitar, as a long running guitar player in Megadeth. Of course, there have been many other guitar players besides him.
Yeah, but there's a good point with this. Let's make it right now.
Yeah.
Marty Friedman was in Megadeth from 1990 to 2000.
Yeah.
I think that's probably one of the longest runs that they had with the same guitar player in the band. Previous to Marty, there's a guitar player, Jeff Young.
Yeah.
Now, if you're a fan of Megadeth and you're like a diehard metalhead, you probably know who he is. But aside from that, nobody knows who the fuck Jeff Young is.
See,
that's reality. Marty Friedman, yes. Jeff Young, not so much.
See, that's the point.
And after Marty Friedman left the band, Al Pitrelli. Now, everybody heard of Al Pitrelli.
Yeah.
A lot of people, surprisingly, never knew he played with Megadeth.
Because he was only on one album.
A lot.
Yeah.
Marty Friedman left a giant shadow.
Yeah, and see, my point with this too is the fact that Chris Poland, who is the original guitar player, he played on the first two albums. Peace Cell's pretty popular album, but again, he only played on two albums, and so a lot of people, when they think of Megadeth, they think of Marty Friedman, which I think is fair as a guitar player of Megadeth. Even though many guitar players have come and gone, he's and like you mentioned, he played some albums he played on. Some of my all-time favorite Megadeth albums, Countdown to Extinction, that's probably my all-time favorite. Rust in Peace, I mean, that's a close second, but those are like Megadeth's two landmark albums. And again, the late, great Nick Menza, who was not even an original member himself, he played on those landmark albums. And so that was kind of what a lot of people, even though it wasn't the original lineup, they considered that the classic era of Megadeth.
Right, absolutely. I mean, everybody, that album, Rust in Peace, let's be honest. I mean, that's what really, really put Marty on the map with Megadeth. And that was his first album with the band, and it was an amazing album that people idolize that to this day,
Yeah. And what's interesting that I recently read, I think it was in a Guitar World interview that Dave Mustaine did, where he came clean about the fact that basically the real reason that Marty Friedman really left Megadeth was because, and it didn't really go into why, but the fact that he found out when they were recording the Risk album, which, as you said, was his very last album with Megadeth, he found out that Dave Mustaine went in the studio after the album was cut and getting ready to turn the tapes in, and Dave, for whatever reason, decided to record over one of his solos without telling him, and then he found out about it later once the album was released.
Oh man, what a shitty thing to do.
Yeah, could you imagine? But again, Marty's remained successful all these years out of Megadeth, and I think it's cool that I think when you look back at his career, he's had more good times with Megadeth than bad. But it's cool that he never allowed something like that to get him real bitter. The fact, it's amazing that it took so long for them to kind of do these shows together. I wonder if that will lead to anything. Who knows, though, right?
Right. You never know. But that would be awesome. I mean, if he rejoined Megadeth, even just for one more album with Kiko and Dave Mustaine, all three playing guitar. Holy shit!
That would be. Yeah, I mean, that'd be like Iron Maiden, triple.
That
triple
would be
threat.
badass.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that someone brought it up to him, or someone mentioned it to him, or the thought crossed their minds, whether they discussed it or not, or took it seriously. Who knows?
Yeah.
But I know that thought entered their mind. They probably thought, wow, could you imagine if we did this on a whole album?
Yeah. And Joe, just to give you kind of an update on something else that I recently was reading online that I'm kind of disappointed to find out. After Judas Priest was inducted in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, they got up on that stage and they reunited with KK, and there's been all this talk of what might become of that. Sadly, I guess, it doesn't look like he'll be going back anytime soon to Judas Priest. They've decided the guy that they had replace Glenn Tipton on the road, he's going to be their new permanent guitar player as far as the fill-in for Glenn. I guess Glenn will just
Andy Sneap.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I guess Glenn will just.
Well, again, that was Glenn's wishes.
Yeah.
So people have mixed feelings about that. And, you know, it's sad. It's very sad and unfortunate what happened to Glenn.
Yeah.
But if anybody was going to fill his shoes, then it should be somebody that Glenn gives his blessing to.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the right way to do it if you're going to do it.
I mean, that's a way to.
That is what they did.
Yeah.
So people that get, you know, butthurt about all that, you know, hey, you know what? Enjoy all the years of amazing music that Glenn created with Judas Priest, and Halford mentioned that Glenn is still very much a part of the band, and he discussed things with him. He helped write. He's still part of Judas Priest. It's just he can't perform live anymore because of his health. You know, so we're all getting older, and those guys are really up there. You know, so
I mean, if you think about it, I mean, you know, he's been suffering with the Parkinson's disease, I guess, for even longer than any of us know. I mean, like I think 10 years prior before he ever made any kind of a announcement, and then you realize Ozzy Osbourne's suffering with that now for a number of years. And from what I understand, that's why that's the real reason they decided to kind of bring Black Sabbath to an end. And then he put out this last solo album, and then I think he thought that he'd be able to tour, but I guess his health has deteriorated so much that he recently made an announcement that he wasn't going to tour anymore, and probably smart decision, but you know, also on the Ozzy front, interestingly enough, for the new album, he was finally, if you can believe this, I guess we shouldn't complain, but he finally won a Grammy after all these years in the music industry. I guess it would be on your final album when you're announced you're not going to tour anymore, but I guess at least he finally got one, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an achievement, and it's respect well past due earned.
Yeah.
But most metal guys laugh at that shit.
Yeah.
You know, that's a dick strokers club. You know, that ain't metal.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Yeah. Anyways, Joe,
and our show is called
This is Metal. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, you know, fuck the Grammys.
There you go. Yeah. I mean, I got something to say about that. You know, that would be a future show, I think. The Grammys and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I mean, that's a joke. I mean, because even like
absolutely it is.
Like Iron Maiden, I think has been nominated, but they don't know if they're going to get it. It's like their fourth time, you know, nominating them. It's like, okay, we'll keep nominating them till they get in. That's kind of a game. Yep. Anyways, Joe, I had fun doing this today. This will be posted in a couple weeks now. If you could hold on, I'd like to talk to you off the air. You don't mind? So thanks for doing this, Joe. I'll be right with you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Chaotic Riffs Magazine.